we just went and saw Need for Speed, the action movie starring Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad. And we'll give you our kind of quick headline thoughts before we get more into the discussion, whether we liked it or not and who should see it, who shouldn't see it. I liked the movie okay. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't the best action movie I've ever seen. It's not the best action movie I've seen this year. The stunts and things are very cool because they're practical effects, and so a lot of that stuff is really impressive, the way that it's done. It's shot very well. It's very pretty. Even in 3D, it was really nice to look at. But there's just not enough. There's not enough story, and it seems to drag a lot. There seems to be a lot of kind of dead spots in the movie where they just, take 20 minutes to tell 15 minutes worth of story, and they keep doing that over and over again. So at 130 minutes long, it's a long action movie, and especially the first half really feels like it. So I would say that, if this is something that, if you're like really into cars or really into, like if you love the Fast and the Furious movies, I would say that this one's not quite that good. It's not quite as exciting as Fast and the Furious is. And it's not up to par with like the best racing movie I've seen in the last year or so was Rush, the Ron Howard
that's
F1
awesome.
movie, which did a really great job of having a really good story and really good racing effects and, an actual feeling of speed and all that kind of stuff. But it's not one that I would rush out and see. If you do go out and see it, though, I would say see it in 3D versus seeing it in 2D. There is probably something lost by not seeing some of the effects that they've done. And I thought the 3D itself was very good. The visual of the film overall is very good. And it looks like a movie that will probably do well internationally because there's not a whole lot of dialogue. The story is extremely easy to follow. It's a by-the-numbers revenge movie, and the trailers tell you everything about the movie, basically. So that's kind of my overview. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm fairly positive about it as long as you go in knowing that it's basically a popcorn movie and it's an action movie based on a video game. And the video game has practically no story, but there's not a whole lot of tie-ins to the video game except it's awesome cars racing. I wasn't too into. There's a lot of Ford product placement going on.
Yes.
But apart from that, it's just some of the shots I thought were very visceral, very exciting. I was excited through a lot of the racing moments. Camera angles great, lighting was great, and certain stunt sequences I thought were really exciting.
Yeah.
Very in the moment. And of course, for a movie like this, you have to get that right. And I think they pretty much succeeded. Aaron Paul was good in the character. Didn't stand out to me as having a whole lot of screen presence.
Yeah.
But he did his frown look really well, and he basically did what he had to do. So serviceable, I guess.
Yeah.
As for the story, I agree. It did drag on a little bit, especially the first third. But as things progressed, to me, it was just an exciting action movie that involved fast cars, and so it totally delivered in spades on that account anyway.
So people that like kind of action
cars racing on regular roads, I got you covered on that.
Street racing.
Yeah.
Lots of street racing. They do a little bit
without the character. Fast and the Furious has so many different character stuff going on.
Right.
This doesn't. It's a one-trick pony with that. It's about basically the one guy, mostly. Everyone else is a total supporting character.
It feels, there doesn't feel like there's an ensemble cast here. It feels like there's just people for Aaron Paul to sort of bounce off of.
At the end of the day, it's a guy racing a car against someone else.
Right. Eventually. I mean, it's 130 minutes long, and man, it's like 100 minutes before they get to the final climax, which I found the actual final climax to be really an anticlimactic.
It felt like that. Yeah,
it really doesn't live up to everything that's been built from that point forward. I
thought the getting to the race was the most exciting part.
Yeah, which
ironically is the video game. I think it's just like a cross country kind of.
Well, there's lots of different. So Need for Speed. So getting past it, I think we're both kind of on the same boat. It's sort of if you really want to go see an action movie, maybe go see it. But other than that, it's nothing special. The video games, there's a couple of different flavors of them. There's the Hot Pursuit series,
yeah.
which are like cops versus street racers, and you can play as either side, so you can try and chase down the street racers, or you can try and outrun the cops.
Yeah, they alluded to some of that in the
They had some of that in there. There's a game that's sort of a one-of-a-kind Need for Speed game called The Run,
Haven't played that one.
which is basically a Cannonball Run. So you get a car in California and you have to race to New York, or you have to race all the way across the country. And so it's just a series of like legs all the way across.
Cool.
But that one actually has more of a storyline than most of the Need for Speeds are just, they're either sort of racing sims or they're the cops versus robbers arcade pursuit sort of story things. And as a video game fan and somebody that plays racing games, it was kind of cool. They had a couple of shots or a couple of effects where you would get like this sort of cockpit view of the action. And when they did those were really well done. Like they had this thing where usually when he was driving the Mustang, which I'll get into the Mustangs in a minute, but a lot of times when he would be driving the Mustang, like in the first part of the movie, they had this sort of transparent heads-up display in the windshield. So like the speedometer was like right in the middle of the bottom third of the windshield had this sort of transparent glowing effect on it, and you could see like speed and some other statistics and stuff like that. It seemed like that only really showed up when they were going faster, so it might be something where like it was speed controlled, or they just wanted to use it to kind of show off that particular thing. Right before the movie started, we got it's the 50th anniversary of the Mustang little featurette that went on before, and it said, see the new Mustang, the 50th anniversary special Mustang in Need for Speed. As if that wasn't the movie we were seeing. It was just sort of
we're already there.
Yeah, like see this car. And one thing that I was worried about with that was that I was worried that was going to be like his car the whole way, and that the last race was going to be like a bunch of Mustangs.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, which are good at going in a straight line, but not so much for.
Yeah, and I mean even like the sort of elusive super Mustang that they're using at the beginning that can go 230 miles an hour. It's like it's not realistic that would go up against these supercars.
The center of gravity and the underpinnings are just not.
Yeah, I mean you're not going to beat Italian supercars with a even a $70,000 Mustang is not going to beat a $2 million supercar. But
good for strip racing though.
It was cool that they added that in the beginning, and it's cool that they had that motif go on with the Mustang inside the movie. Kind of a definitely some product placement for Ford, but it wasn't overdone, and fortunately they didn't just stick with that. Michael Keaton is in this movie. And he's essentially the same guy who was in RoboCop. Just sort of this wacko guy that it looks like all of his scenes were just kind of filmed in a day, completely separate from whatever else was going on. The final race is his race, and that's like the super secret race that
he runs it.
Yeah, he runs it, and it's invite only, and by running it, he just like sits on Skype basically and tells people what to do.
Yeah,
like that's his whole role in it. He's fine in it. It's just not like it's not a big meaty part. It's just kind of nice to see at least one other recognizable actor in it. Most of the other people are just, they're really just side characters. There's a love interest, and then there's a love interest that's kind of there early, but then she gets replaced by the female lead who
Imogen
Poots, who's sort of what a name, who rides along with him, with Aaron Paul's character. And so it's very, like, I tend to dislike movies that the trailer is giving me things from Act 2 instead of giving me things from Act 1.
Right.
And
I'm just saying, I prefer trailers that are more of a tease than giving you the entire synopsis, the whole thing.
And this one, like, in the trailer, you see the guy dies and you see him go to jail and he gets out of jail and he's going to get revenge on the guy that caused the accident. And that accident doesn't happen until like 40 minutes in.
Right.
So it really takes its sweet time getting in there. It also is kind of surprising. It didn't like cold open into an action scene. It really slowly built up. Like they start out sort of in the garage.
It's a bit of a slow burn getting into the good stuff.
So I don't know what that's about. Like I don't know if they were going for something more dramatic, if they were trying to really...
Well, it's funny because like some of the movies just, I mean, rightfully so, it's an action flick, but it's just preposterous, you know. And yet they have these dramatic moments like you're supposed to now take things all very seriously. It was just like, are you kidding? It goes up and down a little bit like that.
I mean, I would have really liked it if they had started the movie with him getting out of jail and maybe flash back to the scene where the accident happens and kind of give you
I would have kept it tighter.
Yeah, kept some of that information flowing throughout the movie, so we're getting a little bit more backstory here and there and finding out about it. The other thing that I would have liked to have seen was more information about the cars. Mm-hmm. You know, just it's not every day you see a movie with a bunch of supercars in
there.
it.
Yeah.
And for people that already know what they're looking at and are really, you know, into cars and stuff like that, they can tell what they see. I'm sort of, you know, I know very little about cars, and most of what I know is from video games. So, like, I'd heard of Bugatti and I've heard of Lamborghini before. What was the, like, Koenigsegg or Koenig?
Remember, the Arnig or something like that. I don't even know what car that was. Yeah, the one where there was 3 of them.
Some kind of supercar that it's important to the plot that there were 3 instead of 2.
It was rare and expensive and fast.
Yeah. And it's, so, and the fact that I can't remember, or I can't recall the make and model isn't because I didn't try. They just really underplay, like,
anything that's not a Ford Mustang.
Yeah, it's like they beat into your head like this is a Ford Mustang and this is a super cool Ford Mustang. Yeah. And they talk about Shelby and you really sort of you almost wish that there was just at least one character who's like, oh man, that's a Bugatti, blah blah. It has 400,000 horsepower. It's super fast. Has a record at Le Mans, man. That thing is the best, like.
Yeah.
But they don't have any of that. And
probably for the same reason that not a whole lot of actors were taller than Aaron Paul in the movie. Right. You gotta give it.
And that too is just like, that was kind of distracting. Like, Aaron Paul is like 5'8" and like $110, and they made sure that like all of his friends and his like nemesis in the movie are all like his size or smaller. Mm-hmm. So it's like all these little waif guys like driving cars and fixing cars, and it's like, yes, like he's the average height of a person, but I don't see like how you have a whole mechanic shop full of like
they're all that way
5'4", 5'6", and 5'8" dudes. Yeah, you know, that are all these tiny little.
To not take away from the main man in the movie, you know.
Like that would that wouldn't have. To me, that would have deflated who he was at all.
Right.
If they'd had some...
Especially being a driver, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But I mean, if The Rock was in it, like, that wouldn't bother me, like, that he's super short compared to The Rock. But
yeah.
Huh. The Rock would have probably made the movie a little bit funnier. It didn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah, there was a few good, well-timed, funny moments.
There were some good laughs. There's a guy that's sort of, like a shorter, younger Jamie Foxx looking guy.
Comic relief guy.
Who's very much like comic relief.
Bit of a stereotype thing, but it kind of works.
It works. He was good. He was funny in it. The other two, like, characters were very forgettable. The other two, like, you know, helpers on Aaron Paul's team were kind of forgettable. And, you know, it sort of falls into the stereotype of the police are after him, but like anytime he leaves a state, they're just sort of like, oh well, guess we'll leave it up to, Nevada to figure out
Yeah.
how to get him, or
Yeah.
you got out of Nebraska. I guess we're done.
The lack of police competence was inspiring, I guess.
Yeah,
Oh, the 3D. If we can circle back to the 3D,
Yeah.
I thought the use of 3D was pretty good in this one. Not because it was totally in your face, but because it kind of wasn't. Like it was pretty subtle, but it was nicely done. I thought
That's what-
it worked well with the lighting. It worked like it went really 3D when it had to, when bits of debris were flying everywhere. But most of the time, it just kind of was nicely.
Yeah.
The planing of it was nice.
the final the final race takes place like on the Pacific Coast Highway, or something that looks like the Pacific Coast Highway, and it's supposed to be in California, like north of San Francisco. And that section was really cool, like the depth of field and stuff in that.
Yeah.
And like I said before, anytime they did a POV shot, like through the dashboard,
Uh-huh.
that always looked neat.
Yeah.
They did a couple of those, like,
Yeah, where the focal plane changes, just like the game. Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
so I mean, yeah, there's some good visual effects in there, and yeah, like I said, if you were to go see it in the theater, I think it would be a lot more boring in 2D than it was in 3D.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
just not as much going on.
Yeah, I like the 3D on this one. That was worth it.
So yeah, it wasn't an IMAX, which is fine. Honestly, it's not like it's that kind of an epic scope of a movie. It was kind of nice to have the anamorphic style and the 3D on that, but yeah, it's not. People aren't gonna rush out and say, this is right up there with Breaking Bad or something like that. It's not like this isn't a classic movie. This isn't gonna like launch Aaron Paul's movie career, but it probably will bring in some money because Fast and the Furious 6 was a huge grossing movie last year.
And to be fair, this has some of the same ingredients, but not the same like the ensemble. The characters are not. There's not all that stuff going on. It's just very simple compared to that.
It's probably. I mean, there's 6 Fast and Furious movies. It's probably better than 1 or 2 of them. Certainly the visuals are better than some of the earlier ones, but the story just doesn't.
Simplistic.
It's simplistic, and it doesn't have that. Like Fast and the Furious has almost. Not quite this far, but it almost has that Ocean's 11 ensemble thing where
There's a lot going on.
every character has some kind of
Yeah.
personality that they bring into it. And
Yeah. They're not all just supporting one main guy.
they all have individual relationships with one another, and I mean part of that's that it's been built out over 6.
That's true. Yeah,
6
it's had time to
installments.
develop.
But yeah, I don't think this movie needed to be 130 minutes long. I really think they could have cut it down to 100 minutes and it would have been fine.
Easily, yeah. I mean, it's a movie based on a video game that has basically no plot. So any plot there was like I felt was like components just added in. I would have expected it to be an hour and a half at most.
Like they could have cut out the entire first action sequence and just started it from him getting out of jail and starting that cross-country run, which is where it actually started to get exciting and interesting.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. And then see what his motivation is as we're on the journey with him looking back, like you were saying with flashbacks.
Like
That would
have
have
him
worked well.
explain it to her while they're driving cross-country, like why I'm after this guy and why I went to jail and all that. But I didn't write it, so... and I didn't edit it, so I can't fix it.
It is what it is now.
That's what it is, so... Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Bye.